The University of Arizona's College of Law was the site of a recent press conference. It was held to announce the release of a new report on immigration and the child welfare system titled Disappearing Parents.
The remote location of the facilities for mothers, all of the women are detained in Eloy, which is just...
Nina Rabin is the director of border research at the U of A's Southwest Institute for Research on Women, or CIRO. She's also the author of the report Disappearing Parents.
And I also co-direct the immigration law clinic here at the law school. I'm a lawyer, and...
Rabin's work focuses on how immigration policy impacts women and children, and she says one of the lesser-told stories about immigration is what happens to children, who are often U.S. citizens, when their parents are detained and or deported.
When you're detained, that can happen for a period of months or years, and so... a lot can happen with the custody of your kids while you're there, and women were encountering a lot of difficulties with that, who I was talking to. And then I had one client in particular who I watched in great detail this happen over the course of 2 years, where the state has been moving increasingly towards terminating her parental rights. And it seems clear to me that it's based in large part on her unavailability just because she's in detention.
Rabin's report describes families entangled at the point of contact between two vast bureaucracies, the federal immigration enforcement system on one hand and the state child welfare system on the other. She says the failure of these two systems to work together results in sudden separations of parents and children after a parent is swept up in immigration enforcement.
So on the one hand, people disappear into the immigration system. The immigration system isn't really responsive to concerns that are raised about family separation and children on the outside. On the other hand, the child welfare system, from their perspective, kind of understandably, if this parent just disappears, they've got to move on, they've got to find a permanent place for this child, so they're making all these decisions without the parent's presence. And so I think it's just this sort of tragedy of these bureaucracies rolling along and not recognizing what's happening to people.
They're written off either because there are assumptions made that they must be a criminal of some kind, or that they're going to be...
Well, in the last year and a few months, I've seen over 110 women.
Patricia Manning is also with CIRO, where she's Immigrant Social Services Coordinator and advocate. She says the vast majority of her clients are women housed in the privately operated Eloy Detention Center. Most are parents, and they are distraught at having been separated from their children. She points out once they are in detention, there are no mechanisms in place to facilitate contact.
Overwhelmingly, the women I deal with are only there because they don't have papers. They're detained because they don't have papers, not for having committed any crime. So there are people that are like the rest of us, trying to just make a living, trying to support our families. Many of them are fleeing domestic violence situation. They're single parents struggling and doing a good job holding it together to raise their children and to provide them with opportunities that they didn't have. They're just unfortunately caught up in a situation where, for many reasons, they're unable to normalize their legal status here.
So she was able to see her children after over a year of not seeing her 5-year-old and 6-year-old. My name is Clarice Spicker. I am a second-year student at the University of Arizona. I've been involved in the immigration clinic since the fall of last year. Well, with our client, the only thing that keeps her going is her children. She's mentioned many times that if she didn't have her children, she would have gladly taken the deportation. You know, she's been there almost a year. And until recently, the judge reversed the custody order and granted her visitation rights. She hadn't seen her 2 younger children for over a year. And that's awful. I can't imagine for a mother, you know, you carry your children, you care for them, and then you just are totally cut off from them. Not even talk to them in a year. So when she got to see them again, she was just so overjoyed, and obviously tears of joy.
Clarice says drawings such as these are typical of those produced by women held at the Eloy Detention Center. They provide a glimpse of the emotional turmoil endured by young mothers like the one that she's currently representing. The report on disappearing parents highlights the pervasive problems created at the intersection between ICE and the child welfare system.
A lack of information about what we can do to help them, and that they have to a process.
Isais Nogues of the Mexican consulate in Tucson points out his office can help to overcome some of the unique challenges that have been created.
Muchas veces tienen problemas los abogados o los jueces para tener contacto con los padres que están detenidos aquí en Arizona o que son deportados a México. Entonces, el consulado, si se acercan al consulado, nosotros podemos fungir como ese puente justamente para poder contactar a los padres que están detenidos o en México. De igual forma, a través del Sistema de Protección al Menor en México, el DIF, nosotros podemos fungir como un puente también para que las autoridades de Estados Unidos, de Arizona, puedan contactar a las autoridades y podamos resolver la reunificación de los menores.
Nogues says the biggest problem is that in most instances his office is never notified of cases, and parents face the possibility of termination of their parental rights. The report reveals how this is often due to their inability to comply with the juvenile court's timeline for regaining custody, so long as they remain in immigration detention.
Once the state assumes custody of the kids, that triggers these dependency proceedings where there are regular hearings and decisions to be made about what's going to happen with the children. And if you can't reach the parent or you can't have regular communication with them, then it's really very hard for them to participate in the decisions that are being made. And at the same time, the clock starts ticking for them on possibly facing termination of parental rights if they're that unavailable.
Rabin says this report is intended to provide information to the agencies involved as well as the general public. Recommendations made include providing enhanced legal assistance to immigrant parents with U.S. citizen children in state custody. Also, appointing key liaison positions between ICE and the child welfare system to improve the ability of these two systems to communicate and coordinate with one another. A version of the report, Disappearing Parents, will be published later this fall in the Connecticut Journal of Law. You can find the document on our website, azpm.org.